Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats, and it is enrollment season, and we're featuring some of the excellent charter schools and schools of choice in San Antonio. Today on our website, sachartermoms.com, and on our social media, we're featuring EKHLA, which is the Eleanor Kolitz Hebrew Language Academy. And I have an amazing panel to talk about all different aspects of EKHLA. So let me introduce the panelists, and then we're going to get into some questions. Okay, so right next to me is Principal Kathryn Cohen. So she's the Principal Superintendent of EKHLA. And then we also have Tracy Smith, who's a Vice Principal at EKHLA, and she's focused on grades K through 2. And then in the bottom row, Simran Jawanda is also a Vice Principal, and she's focused on the middle school grades. And then also on the bottom, Gabriela Tawil, and she wears many hats, but her titles include District Coordinator, Athletics Director, and she manages the enrichment programs. So with this amazing panel, we're going to be learning all kinds of things about EKHLA, and I'm really excited to get to share about it because we now have an enrollment guide blog post up on the website, sachartermoms.com. So well, let me start with a question for Kathryn. I wanted to, if you could talk about like the mission and vision of EKHLA, maybe for people who haven't heard about it, because I feel like EKHLA has been kind of quietly excellent on the north side for many years now. And I'm really happy to be able to shine more of a spotlight on EKHLA.
Hi, Inga, thank you very much for having us. And I would agree with you that EKHLA has been this hidden little gem in the north side of San Antonio for about 10 years now. We are finishing up our 10th year as an open enrollment public charter school. And really the mission and vision of EKHLA is to prepare confident students through high academics and high behavioral expectations that are grounded in a second language, which happens to be Hebrew, and then also learn the culture of Israel. And so at EKHLA, we really work to educate the whole child. We believe in, like I said, the high academics and consistent behavioral standards, as well as kind of nurturing them through all of their formative years and preparing them to go to and through high school and college.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I also have to be sure to unmute myself before I jump back in. Thank you, Kathryn. That was a great introduction. Talking about the vision. Talking about Hebrew language and Israeli culture, and then some of the cognitive benefits that kids get from learning more than one language. So speaking about the language study, so I have a question for Tracy. I was wondering if you could explain more about how EKHLA teaches students Hebrew language and how they learn about Israeli history and culture.
Yes, so we have a pretty robust program for all of our K through 8 programs. And in elementary, for K through 5, we use a program called ITALAM, and it has the classroom model as well as an online component so that students can practice in lots of different ways. It's very multi-sensory, doing lots of different activities, singing, lots of games in the younger grades, and gets a little bit more academic in the older grades, but we try to make it really fun. We also like to let families know that, Hebrew is a language, just like any other language that might be a little bit different that's not necessarily spoken in the area. We like to cater to families and provide the newer level for beginning level at every grade level, no matter what grade level that they come in. So if they come in as a 4th grader or a 5th grader or a middle school student, that we always have beginning level classes. The program that we use in middle school is kind of a traditional style program, as if you were going to take Spanish or French or anything else in high school. So we have 3 years of Hebrew, Hebrew 1, Hebrew 2, and Hebrew 3. We use a program called Bishvil HaIvrit. Again, it has the direct teach model in class, but as well as some practice online and lots of different ways to engage in the language. And what's a really great benefit is the state has recognized our program as being a high school level. So if they pass all 3 years of their Hebrew classes in 6th, 7th, and 8th, then they have a wonderful benefit of gaining high school credit and finishing all of their foreign language credit that's required in high school. They can obviously have some other opportunities to take other fun things or a different foreign language. So that's a great benefit too. And whenever you're studying a foreign language, an important component of that is learning about the culture where it came from. So we have culture days on Fridays in all of the classes. So they dive a little bit deeper into the culture of Israel, learning about lots of different pieces of that at different grade levels. in 8th grade, we actually have a semester-long course, and the students dive very deep in, it's called Israeli culture, and it's like taking a U.S. history class. They learn about all the people, the geography, how the country was established, a really nice, well-rounded program where they dive much deeper into the culture of the country. And we also have a really fun cultural day in the spring for Israeli Independence Day, kind of like what would mirror as 4th of July here, American Independence Day. So the students learn dancing, experience food, they learn games, and it's a wonderful crossover day, which we do on other programs throughout the school year too, where our older students run stations and activities for the younger students. So that's a lot of fun also.
Wow, that's I think that's a great. Oh, Kathryn, did you want to chime in?
I did. I'm sorry. I just wanted to kind of tail end on Tracy's fabulous explanation of our Hebrew components. People have come to EKHLA and said, why do you teach Hebrew? It's not something that's kind of regional or even a little more known nationally. But, we started this 10 years ago, and the country of Israel, although it's tiny, is kind of on the world stage a little bit more than not with its technology, with what it's doing with farming and irrigation. And so just like, other languages that have been offered over the last 30 or 40 years, there's been a little bit of interest in learning Mandarin or Chinese or some dialect from Asia. We thought, why not Hebrew? Because a student that learns any foreign language is going to expand their brain power. They're going to, create synapses in different parts of the brain that they don't normally use. And so any second language is a wonderful gift to give a student. So we really try and remind the families that are interested in EKHLA, it doesn't have to be part of your home or your heritage. There's no requirement that parents help with the program anyway at home. And it's a wonderful opportunity to just learn any second language.
Yeah, well, I can corroborate what Kathryn is saying about technology. So my husband works in technology, and one of his team members is Israeli. And he really brings a lot to the table. Like he's served in the IDF and just has a really interesting background, interesting perspective, and it's just really on the cutting edge of research. He's a really valuable team member. So so if learning Hebrew unlocks those cultural connections, like that's really valuable. And I think we can all appreciate what's happening in with Israeli culture and the innovations that they're doing. So so that's and there's cognitive benefits to learning any language, but what Tracy was describing is like just how much how much enrichment stuff is happening. I know Gabriela is going to talk about this more too, but that's one thing I noticed from when I visited EKHLA or when I look at the newsletters or look at what y'all post on social media, that there's always activities, there's always enrichment, there's always community building happening, and it's what makes it, I think, such a close-knit environment. It what makes families appreciate it so much. Okay, so I want to ask another kind of curriculum-related question. Like I said, right? So Tracy was talking about the Hebrew language and Israeli culture, but I wanted to ask Sim about. So EKHLA has a reputation for academic excellence and has always gotten high scores on the state assessments, and so if families are making comparisons and looking for a really high-quality academic program, EKHLA is really up there. It's one of the top, it rates high on niche rankings, and so I was wondering if you could talk more about the curriculum and how teachers support academic excellence and having high expectations for the students.
Sure. So, we are a public school, so obviously we teach TEKS, which are the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills standards that are set by the state. So we're required to teach those, but we kind of take it to the next level. So we're teaching the TEKS, but we're teaching them at a higher level to the high students. And we're also teaching them with high expectations. So what this means is kind of if I'm in a math class and I'm teaching, addition, subtraction, but the questions that I'm asking the students are at a higher level. So we're digging a little deeper than what your regular public school would be doing in the classroom. If I'm teaching a novel, the questions that I'm asking, the text evidence that we're trying to pull out of the book, the things that we're talking about in class are a little more higher level than what you're going to get in a public school. So we're preparing students so that when they leave EKHLA, they are very prepared for high school, very prepared for the world out there. They are asking questions. They are trying to figure things out beyond what is expected in a regular public high school. So we also have higher expectations. So how do our teachers kind of get involved with giving that extra customer service of higher expectations, more academic excellence, is that they have, they're asking the students, when you're handing something in, is your name on it? Are you using capitals? Are we using complete sentences? All those little pieces that are little skills that a lot of students are missing these days in the public education world. And so, a lot of us grew up with those skills, and we know that when we're in our workplace, those skills come in handy. So we're trying to teach our kids and keep that learning to a higher level compared to what you get in a public school. So I think that's kind of the pieces that we have that are very different. And that's why we have a strong rating for STAR scores. A lot of our students, like we've got 90 or higher passing reading, math. We've got those higher scores because we're not just teaching the basics, we're kicking it up a notch.
Unmute. Those little details aren't little, like they add up, and it's part of creating a culture that the students know that they need to be attentive and they need to like always bring their best effort. And I know from when I visited the campus and I see like examples of student work, posted in classrooms or in the hallways, like it's very impressive, like the level of detail that they put into their artwork or their handwriting or their projects. Like you can tell there's a lot of pride that the students have in what they're creating.
Yeah, it's definitely a culture at our school. I think not only with the students, but even with our teachers, as we're asking our students to have those high expectations, we're also expecting that out of our teachers as well. So, they're looking at the details, they're looking at the grades, they're looking at all the little pieces and how they all fit and what's being assessed and how am I going to show parents that your child is excelling and in what areas. And so I think we're very detail oriented when it comes to that. And we're really, hands-on, even admin, we're very hands-on with our teaching staff and making sure that all of that kind of matches and across the board.
Mm-hmm. But I remember from when I was on campus that though there's a lot of joy, a lot of like questions. And so, right, it's not like a strict lockdown, heads in your lap, eyes cast down. Like there's a lot of kids bouncing around and like they're working in groups and they're getting their hands dirty. Right. So it's like, I don't want to give people the impression that it's like, super strict and locked down. It's like, there's high expectations, but there's a lot of activity, a lot of spontaneity.
Yeah, there's high expectations. And, one of our core values is passion. Like all of our teachers are passionate about learning. And that is, that passion is transferred to the students as well. They're excited about learning. They're excited about being there. And I think that's the piece that we go above and beyond. So we're not just teaching the TEKS, we're getting those kids interested in things beyond what is required to know. So they're excited, they're curious, they're wanting to know more information, they're wanting to go beyond what is in the textbook. They're asking those questions and they're part of that process. So definitely a lot of passionate people around here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Sim. So we were talking about academics, right? We talked about Hebrew language and Israeli culture. We talked about academics. So I want to go back to Tracy and ask more about kind of it takes more than academics. It's also like character development and, that curiosity that Sim was talking about, helping students build confidence, have a sense of giving back to the community. So how does EKHLA kind of build those values in students?
That's a great question. Yeah, Sim tapped into that by talking about the core value of passion, but we actually have a set of core values that are a very important foundation to our curriculum. We've been teaching on those since the beginning. Now, Texas did adopt some character values and strands and TEKS the last year, and now schools have to incorporate them. But we've been doing that since the beginning because we feel like having great grades and having high academics are important, but if you don't have the other pieces to match that, if you don't have the organizational skills or the kindness or the compassion to work well with others and be a good team player, then you're not going to be a very well-rounded person. And so Kathryn also touched on earlier that we work to teach to the whole child, to teach them all of these skills. And so that's what we work on through the core values. So in the lower grades, in grades K through 2, they do direct lessons once a week for 45 minutes where we focus throughout the year on different core values. Sometimes it's reading a story. Sometimes it's an interactive lesson. Sometimes it's building things together, working on teamwork. So they're actively doing lessons in the lower grades. In 3rd through 5th, that becomes a little bit more integrated. They still have some direct pieces to it. And then in middle school, it's really integrated into the subject areas. We're bringing up in conversations when they're doing novel studies, when they're studying a historical figure, we try to tie all that back and integrate all that back into our foundational core values. That's also how we embed the language from those core values into our discipline, into our behavior management system and our classroom rules. We have the same classroom rules from kindergarten all the way up through 8th grade. And that basic language that we use for everybody, the same language, is really important. So no matter what grade level you are, that's kind of instilled in you throughout the years. And obviously that changes. That language means something different to a kindergartner than it does in 8th grade, but that helps everyone stay on track with the mission and how we're trying to really reach the whole child.
Yeah. Well, I think that, Tracy, what you're talking about is really important because, right, you need to have an environment that's conducive for learning, right? So like if kids are going to be, diving deeper into knowledge, or like, they're doing math at a higher level, you need to have a certain amount of order in the classroom where, kids know, like, it's time to listen to the teacher,
Right.
Don't be messing with your peers. So having those clear expectations, but it's also something like you can't impose it on kids. Like they have to buy in, right? And it's
Right.
it's part of shaping them so that even like beyond when they leave EKHLA, whether they're in high school or college or in life, that they have all these character traits that will help them to succeed. So it's getting doing their work with a level of attention to detail and having pride in their work and a sense of giving back.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I could add on to that, I think one of the great things about EKHLA and its culture across the board, if we're talking about the academics or if we're talking about behaviors being positive behaviors as well as, just the standard behaviors of expectation, I think EKHLA does a really great job of giving kids a very clear vision of exactly who and what is expected from them from a very early age. Children go from grade to grade with very clear understanding of what all the classroom rules are, like Tracy said, what are the expectations around the homework and when things are turned in and how things are turned in. And so it's very predictable and a safe environment for them to really thrive in. Children do well when there is structure and predictability and consistency. And so we've worked very hard as a team over the last 10 years to ensure year over year that our students get all of those things from all the adults that touch their day. And I think that's another reason they thrive so much academically, socially, emotionally, and behaviorally, because it's very clear and predictable. And it's a very safe and warm and nurturing environment with high expectations.
Yeah. Well, Kathryn, that's really helpful. And like in the Facebook group, when parents, they post questions, they're like, they don't know the landscape in San Antonio, but they're saying, well, I'm looking for an environment like this. And they'll say, like, we want it to be safe. We want there to be clear expectations. Maybe they have kids with high energy, and they want, those clear expectations help them to know when can they release, right? Go and, y'all have a beautiful playground with those big oak trees and, it's all those natural materials, like, it's that great outdoor space, but, so there's a time to be in the classroom and be focused. There's a time to run around outside. So these are what you're addressing. These are concerns that parents are voicing in the Facebook group. And so I hope that parents listening to this, are kind of keying onto that and thinking, okay, if that's the type of environment that I'm looking for, then, definitely follow up with EKHLA. Like it's a small school, but there's room for more students that, they're recruiting every year. And, this could be the right environment. So I want to make sure to I have a question next for Gabriela, asking about all the enrichment. I mentioned the beautiful playground area in back. There's photos in the blog post and on y'all's website. There's great pictures, but there's that beautiful gym. I mean, you'll have a great facility, and you guys put it to really good use. There's always stuff happening after school, right?
Yes. So this year we've got a big after school enrichment program. We've got 13 different programs, ranging from recreational sports like inside or indoor soccer to story book makers to making makers. New this year is iCode, which is the basics of coding and drone coding, graphic design. That's new this year. We had it a few years ago, so that was really nice to bring back to the school. We've got indoor soccer club, we've got crochet, chess, Spanish. We have just a big wide variety of after school enrichment. And the other thing is that we also offer after school care. So if you're enrolled in after school care till 6, this is just another little outlet. Even though the after school care program offers outside play and homework time, this is another little outlet that they can go learn and experience from about 3:30 to 4:30 for about an hour during this enrichment hour. We've got transitional awareness breathing that's always been very successful here. New this year also is move and groove dance, which is geared towards some of the lower grades. I also am the athletics director, so we do competitive sports in grades 4 through 8. The sports that we concentrate on for the last 10 years have been competitive soccer, competitive basketball, the last 2 years, competitive tennis, and competitive volleyball. And in soccer, volleyball, and basketball, we have gone to playoffs every year with the Texas Charter Athletics and Academic League. And we've won our regional playoffs and gone to the semifinals for in state semifinals. So it's a great competitive program. It lets children interact from grades 4 through 8. We usually split them up from 4 through 6 grades, and then the 7th and 8th graders get their own team. So there's a lot to do here, and there's a lot of community too. You know, having all those enrichment programs kind of brings parents and students together that may not have normally interact. So it's great to be in charge of that.
Yeah. No, I think there's kind of a myth sometimes that maybe like charter schools are like just bare bones or just academics, and that's really not true, because especially at a school like EKHLA, you put so much time and energy into the enrichment and the sports, and like you said, it brings parents on campus. Like, parents are cheering on the sidelines. They're serving on committees and organizing things, and so it makes EKHLA this close-knit community where you have like the teachers and the students and the families all working together.
Right. We this year in particular is our biggest soccer team. We've got 2 soccer teams, and we've got 48 players, which is our largest teams ever. So it's very exciting. We even have a 3rd grader that's playing up in our 4th grade team. Our 4th and 6th grade team is huge, and lots of girls and boys co-ed teams for all sports except volleyball. So it's a great year. But yes, normally some of your 4th graders aren't going to always interact with your 5th and 6th graders. So this is a really nice opportunity to kind of build relationships.
Oh, I see some comments popping up on screen. This name looks familiar. I wonder.
That's my son. An alumni of EKHLA. He was here a few years ago, now in college.
That's awesome. Actually, so a question just popped up from a YouTube. She's asking about if there's plans to add a library. My recollection was that there were classroom libraries. I remember seeing lots of books on campus, but any thoughts about that question about library?
I'm happy to answer that. So EKHLA does not have a dedicated library space. This is the way that traditional ISDs had been built in the past. EKHLA is on this beautiful campus that we built 3 years ago. This is our 4th year in the building. And truthfully, what we found when we did a lot of research around facilities is that libraries are beautiful and wonderful, but unfortunately, they can be a lot of dead space for a lot of time during the day. So we do have hundreds of books kind of belonging to EKHLA and in a collection of what we would call a library. And then what we've done is we've taken all of those grade level and age level appropriate, and we've created classroom library carts, like you said, Inga. So each classroom has a cart with 100 or 200 books on it, where the children have a library time in elementary school where they're able to have the cart come in. They can go up to the cart, look at the different books and make a decision. They can check them out, and then they read them during library time, and they return them weekly. And then in middle school, our language arts teacher has a dedicated classroom library. It probably has 7 or 8 bookshelves same thing, maybe 100 or 200 books. And the middle school students are welcome to come check them out from that classroom. So correct, we do not have a dedicated library room space that houses the books, but we have a robust library that children have access to all different types of novels, interest level, grade level appropriate, throughout the school year.
Yeah.
And if I could add one thing, sorry.
Yeah.
We were talking about community, we were talking about parents and families and the opportunity to kind of meet each other through their academics, through sports, through the enrichment. We do have a really strong PTO that we are very happy to work with every single year. The PTO is wonderful at EKHLA. They provide volunteers to do all of the kind of little extras that are fun to do in elementary schools in particular. So bike rodeo breakfast. We provide backyard play dates for different grade levels. So if you're a first grade family, PTO will provide an opportunity for about an hour for all the families to come together and the kids to play in the backyard. PTO provides volunteers who want to help with picture day or nurse screenings, taking kids to and from the classroom. So we have an active PTO, and that's another great way that our families get to be a part of the EKHLA community.
Yeah, and special events, right? Like Tracy mentioned, the Israeli Independence Day, right? And like those cultural events, and like so big events that bring everyone together. Actually, so another question popped up on YouTube. So currently, EKHLA goes through kindergarten through 8th grade, right? So the question is asking, is there any plan to offer high school? And so my impression is no, but I guess we could break some news here.
So I will say that EKHLA is, the charter does allow for us to open a high school if at some point we felt like we had a critical mass to do that. I would say looking at short term, 3 to 5 years, we don't see that on the horizon. We moved into this bigger facility, and we are really looking to fill this facility and make sure that we have a critical mass to follow us to and through high school before we would make those plans.
Okay, no, thanks. That's really helpful. Yeah, there's something nice about I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine EKHLA High School because like y'all just have such a great culture built around that foundation. And I guess the good news is being on the north side, there are some really high quality high school options, like big comprehensive high schools in the independent school districts, like in north side and northeast ISD that families can choose from. And I know a lot of charter families kind of make a transition between 8th and 9th grade because there are some really outstanding comprehensive high schools in the ISDs, especially on the north side of San Antonio that families have access to. So, but there's also great charter high schools too. So, the 8th graders can come, join SA Charter Moms group and, brainstorm like what they want to do for high school. So, okay, we've covered all of my questions except like the nuts and bolts about like how people can apply. But I just want to open it up if y'all want to share like particular like stories about like interactions with students, interactions with families, like feedback you've gotten, like things that you feel like demonstrate like the culture at EKHLA.
I guess I could add because I have students. I mean, I have my own children at EKHLA right now, and they're involved in sports. And so, just like Gabriela was talking about, how it builds this extra community of, when we go to the games. This year, more than any other year, I've seen people coming to games they don't have kids in the sports, but they're coming, they're bringing their friends. And, there's been such a good turnout, and it feels like the community's just kind of grown and been able to connect that way. And I feel like, my kids are in sports and they're getting cheered on by people that, they wouldn't think that they would come to their games. So I feel like the sports has added a lot of community to it. I think our backyard play dates have added a lot. My daughter's in 8th grade now, leaving next year. And so, she's been here for 8 years, and I feel like it's been a really good foundation for her. And so as a parent, not just, being a part of the school community, but as a parent, I feel like this is a great place to bring your families to, so that they feel they're getting a good education, but they still have that small community feel of like a private school. So that's my personal experience with the school.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And I will share that I live on the north side of town, and I kind of live in this geographical area. So I am friendly with a lot of the families. And after you're here for 9 years, and my children also went through EKHLA, so sometimes I was a parent, educator, administrator, and a family friend. I get a lot of feedback year over year of just kind of incidental thank yous. When parents see me out and about, the general kind of story I hear is my children were more than well prepared for high school. My children walked right into pre-AP and honors classes, and were at the top of the class. And so we get a lot of feedback from siblings that are gone or students that are now in high school. And I will say that a good handful of us. So if you are in Northeast ISD, I can't speak to other school districts. High school students that graduate with summa cum laude are allowed to honor one of their teachers as a thank you, and people who have made a huge impression in their life. And I have been summaed. Mrs. Jawanda has been summaed. Other teachers on staff have been summaed, which speaks, I think, volumes to how we as teachers have touched their lives. The majority of kids summa a high school teacher or a high school teacher or a coach, somebody who has a long impact while they're in high school. But for students to reach back to their elementary and their middle school teachers here from EKHLA, I think speaks a lot to the connection that we make with students. And then the last piece that I'll share is also as a parent, when my oldest went to Churchill, she left here, she was here all the way through. She came home the first day and said, "Mom, you're never going to believe this. My first assignment in, pre-AP English 1 was we were all supposed to write an essay. So I wrote my essay and I turned it in. And a little bit, near the end of class, my teacher called me up and he said, 'I just read your essay. You didn't go to a public school, did you?' And she said, 'Well, I did.' And he said, 'You didn't come from Hobby or I'm sorry, you didn't come from whatever Northeast school we're supposed to feed into.' And she said, 'No, I went to a charter school.' And he said, 'Well, I can tell because this writing is really, really phenomenal.' So on day one, I felt like, as a parent and an educator, that I had made the right choice and that we were doing good things at EKHLA. And those are the types of little incidental stories that I hear a lot from former families.
Yeah. Wow. When you're talking about the like alumni, asking an EKHLA teacher or an EKHLA leader to come to their graduation, like that made me tear out. Like I had a middle school history teacher who had a huge impact on me. And but she was in Germany. I went to a Department of Defense school. And so I wasn't able to summon her back, but but that just really spoke to me. Cause like sometimes it's, like a teacher, you interact with them at a point that's like a pivot in your life. And, as a young adult or a teenager, you look back and really feel that. And I mean, that's really meaningful. So yeah, thank you for sharing those testimonies. Tracy or Gabriela, do you have any stories you want to share?
I would like to add, I'm also a parent here. I've my 2 older children went through EKHLA and are now in college. But, besides the high academic standards that EKHLA is known for, the other thing that I love seeing, because I have my 4 little ones here, is the connections that they've had throughout the years with their teachers, and not just their current grade level teachers, but that it stays with them. So they, their second grade teacher still knows that one of my younger boys' favorite color is green, and the connections that they have just maintained throughout the years is so endearing to watch. I feel like I've not only given them wonderful academics, or EKHLA has, but that they've also been experiencing, like everyone feels like family here. Teachers, administrators, students, 6th grade students with 3rd grade students. We have a wonderful kind of mentoring program that the 7th and 8th graders do with the younger grades, where they read stories to them and books and do activities with them. So I feel like everyone is interacting and everyone is building on these wonderful relationships that'll make them feel secure and academically prepared. But the security of EKHLA is something that I, see firsthand, not only in my home with my kids, but just walking around the hallways.
Yeah, well, and those relationships are such an important foundation for the type of academics that Sim was talking about. That kids are willing to take risks and be brave when they speak up if they know that it's a teacher who sees them, knows them, understands them, knows their favorite color is green. So they're willing to stick their necks out. Tracy, did you have a story to share?
Sure, I'll tap into that. I'm number 4 here, that we have our children here. So that we all believe in the school, that we have brought our children here. And I also have my grandson here, and this is his 5th year here. So going back into the high academics, my daughter transferred in and went into 4th grade from a very good elementary school from our neighborhood, but just it was heightened so much when she came here, and the academics that she received while she was here did fabulous in high school, had a wonderful teachers in high school, but her favorite teachers are still the ones that she had here from EKHLA. About relationship building also, not only did she have strong relationships with her teachers here, but one of her really good friends ended up going to the same high school who went here to EKHLA. They both had a fabulous foundation, ended up both getting scholarships to the same college, and they're continuing on to do great things together. One's going to nursing school, one's going into international business. So it all started here. That foundation was built, really great things that they started here in so many different ways. And now hopefully my grandson will do the same, and all the other little ones that are still here. So when we're speaking about this, we're not just speaking as educators who work here, but our families are here. Like, it's our family. So
yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. Well, so for Kathryn, we've had a couple more comments pop up. Parents have questions. This is sort of a COVID safety question. So she's asking, are kids allowed to wear masks if they choose to?
They are allowed to wear it if they choose to, yes.
Okay, good. And then another question.
I would say, if I'm guessing, I'm guessing right now we probably have about 10 to 15% of our students who are walking around with masks. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of, the sort of the culture varies school to school, but that's a good question to know, kind of comfort level. So another question about school safety and security. And I know my observation was that there's single point of entry and good procedures. So if you could comment on that.
Sure. So in terms of safety and security, like Inga said, our campus is facing Dreamland Drive, and we do have one point of entry into the main building. Everything else is kind of surrounded by gates and walls, and we have, security measures that all schools do. We have cameras, we have, alarms. This year and for years foreseeable future, we have a security officer. We have an off-duty police officer who is on campus every single day. Then there's some other things that we, don't want to share too much. Not that any of the parents that are listening would take that and try and find workarounds, but, we have things that you can see and then things that you don't see. But we do take safety and security very seriously, like all of the ladies have mentioned. Our personal families are here or have been here, and we are a community. And like Mrs. Tracy said, we do become one big family. So these babies are our babies, and we want to protect them and take care of them in every sense of the word. So, this year with the unfortunate, horrible event that happened in Uvalde, TEA has come out with a lot of standards and expectations, and we had checked the box on the majority of them anyway. So it's important.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the facility you said this is the 3rd or the 4th year in that building. Yeah. And so I think for any school, like the newer the facility, the more knowledge, like, unfortunately there's just too many of these incidents, but I think that the designers always learn from past experiences, and they're able to incorporate that safety into the design. So we had one more question pop up, and unfortunately, no, there is no EKHLA in Dallas that I know of. But I did want to, for this listener, to point out that txschools.gov is the TEA's school navigator. And so even though SA Charter Moms is focused on the San Antonio region, txschools.gov has information about public schools, including public open enrollment charter schools in the Dallas area. So I know there are other Hebrew focused charter schools, like there's a handful of them in Florida that are even older than EHKLA. Like I know when EHKLA was applying for their charter, I was researching. I was like, "Is this a thing? Like the Hebrew language charter? Like this is brilliant!" And sure enough, there's a handful of them scattered across the country. Okay. Wow. Well, this has been, we've shared lots of great stories. Thank you. You know, I feel we've covered the academics and the enrichment, the Hebrew language and culture. I think I just want to make sure that everybody knows like the action steps, like what can they do to, you know, get more information, get their kids enrolled. So Kathryn, I'll send that question over to you.
Sure. So EKHLA's open enrollment period is actually right now. It's the month of February. So we are accepting applications. Obviously, we accept them all year past February, but this is the time frame where if the application comes in, then they have priority enrollment, and this is where we decide if students end up on wait lists. But you can go to EKHLA.org, and right at the very top of the banner, all the way over on the right-hand side is the word apply. And if you click on that, it brings you to the one-page application that you fill out. And also in that apply link on that page, there are links to tours. We are running tours every Friday at 9 o'clock, so you can sign up for a Friday that would work for you. And EKHLA is going to host our own open house on March 25th. It's a Saturday from 9 to noon. So if you aren't able to make any of the tours in the next couple of months and you'd like to come and see the building and, you know, hear our story again, or share this information with friends and family, on March 25th, we're going to do our own open house here on campus.
Well, and I'm just going to also pop up. This is the main number for the campus. So it's for anyone listening on the podcast, it's 210-890-7267. And then, like Kathryn said, the website it's EKHLA, EKHLA.org. And if you click on the apply button in the menu bar, that will take you to the application. And it's the free application. It's short and simple. And getting the application in before February 28th means that the application goes in the lottery. So that's the best chance of getting an offer. But again, like Kathryn said, you can still, even if you are watching this after February 28th, you can still apply, but your student's name will be added to the waiting list. But the waiting lists do move. So there's still a chance to get an offer, you know, before school starts, or even, and y'all still add students during the school year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are there open seats in any grades right now?
We do have open seats in our lower elementary right now, kinder, first, and second. I think some of our older grades are, you know, pretty full, but if you are interested in EKHLA and you'd like to look at transferring now, you're welcome to call the office or fill out the application, and then the registrar would return with an acceptance letter and or a position on a wait list.
Okay. Yeah, and I think as Tracy said, there's, for the Hebrew instruction, like don't be alarmed if your child is, you know, getting introduced to Hebrew in, you know, second grade, that there will still be introductory material for them, and they can get up to speed along with their classmates. Okay, wow, great. Well, this has been such a great like dive into like all things EKHLA, and you guys are doing such a great job, and I'm really honored to be able to like, you know, spread the word about what you're doing, because it's like in so many areas, it's just, you're achieving at such a high level. And I just think if more families know about it, they would, you know, consider this alternative and, you know, think about maybe the benefits of their kids learning Hebrew along with all these other benefits, like the high academic standards and the character formation and the strong community and all the enrichment and sports and things like that. There's really a lot to appreciate.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Inga.
Thank you, Inga. Good talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks all so much. See you later.
Bye.